Okay, welcome to Father Forever first 2026 podcast.
2026.
We are honored, we are privileged to have a young man from Chicago, Illinois through Phoenix, Arizona. His name is Lyndon Ragland. And Lyndon, thank you so much for joining us here for our very first podcast of 2026, brother.
No, thank you, Mr. William Denson. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, as you know, man, as Father Forever, we make a point to talk about father issues. Sure. and how, how fathers impact the family.
Right.
The value they bring to the family. But there's challenges. Oftentimes there's, single family homes,
sure.
Divorces, in some cases, physical violence comes into play, and we want to help these young brothers to inform these young brothers that's not the way to go.
100%.
So let's talk about, we met in Arizona years ago. You was a youngster back then. I met you through my sister.
Yes.
Yeah. Your sister, my mom was, your sister and your mom were very good friends, back then. And we just elevated as a family. And here you are 34 years old.
34.
And I think I've been knowing you for maybe close to 30 years.
Yeah, well, what's the old saying? It takes a village to raise a child, right? So I think even in you saying that, just to take a second to acknowledge Janet Denson, my Aunt Janet, as I affectionately call her. She's actually my sister's godmother, but I was there first. So I was there first for the record in the 90s. But yeah, we've known each other for some time. Have known your family. You've seen me grow up. You interacted with me from youth to young adulthood, being a young man, not really knowing what this world holds for men that look like us, and have always been willing to offer some guidance, always been willing. In my situation, and I by far, people have had way more difficult familial and family type situations with their fathers, but I certainly can relate to some of those things you were just speaking to in terms of the challenges that present families. So yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah, and now you're a father.
Yeah, 2 times. Fortunate to have a 9-year-old son, 4-year-old daughter. Love them both. They're my world. But yeah, you become a father, and there's certain things that you have to see from the lens of a father to really understand it, right? When you're a child, you think like a child, you understand things as a child, you perceive things as a child. And when you become a man, you kind of begin to see or are able to see more of the field, if you will. There are certain things that you just aren't really privy to as a child, just in terms of, the pressures, the expectations, the obligations, the thing that you look at a man and you're obligated to do. It's really walking a tightrope while still maintaining that emotional availability for the ones you love.
My father, he used to have a saying that keep waking up every morning, life will reveal itself to you. And from graduating from a child to a teen, to a young man, to a man in his 30s, you can relate to that as well. Your perception of things changes.
Life will reveal itself indeed. I think that's, I find myself every day learning more about myself, trying to get more in tune with who I truly am. One thing I'll say, and like you say, we want to give a message to young men. I think for a lot of my life until this day, I've dealt with like self-esteem issues. We have these models of what we think we're supposed to be, these examples of success, athletes, entertainers, figures in the neighborhood, or these people that we idolize and feel like we're supposed to strive to be like or strive to attain. And really the best person you can be is yourself. Like, there's only one of who you are, and the older you get, the more comfortable you become with yourself, or hopefully the more comfortable you become with yourself with age. And I'm really at a point where I'm trying to embrace who I am in its totality, and there have probably been times in my life where I've tried to, as people would say, front or try to put on airs about, what I'm doing or who I'm with. But I'm really at a point now, 2 children, a son that's going to be 10 this July, just trying to model what I would want him to see, and just thinking about, because he's at an age now, I remember exactly what I was doing when I was 10. You know, it's like I remember exactly what I was into. What was the cool movie, the cool song, the Allen Iverson, looking up to the athletes that I looked up to. So it's just knowing how impactful that age can be, and really like what I would want him to get from this time in his youth as he kind of matures.
Okay, we will return back to that, but I'm gonna go back to your upbringing. Now,
Sure.
What was your father, your grandfather, your role model? Who was your role model back then? Would you say?
That's a good question. If I had to say like my role model, I love my father. You know, my father and I have grown closer as we've gotten older. But if I had to say like my role model in my younger years was probably my best friend's father, Tommy Reynolds. My friend T.J. Reynolds, Tommy Jr. His dad, I would say, is a role model. I was involved in the church a lot. We were in the usher ministry, so we would travel state to state for these usher conventions. And me and TJ were best friends, so his dad would always be our chaperone. And I would be at their house often. And yeah, I think he kind of recognized, I was fortunate enough. I mean, it's interesting how the church is like, it's like a double-sided sword growing up in the church. Like you get the good from it and you get maybe the not so good from it too. But a lot of older gentlemen kind of took me in. Another man I affectionately call my Uncle Freddie. Freddie Randall passed away. It was about almost 15 years ago now. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have that infrastructure and that village that looked out for me. My father, I looked up to my dad too. My father, I always give him credit. He gave me my sense of music. I DJ, a lot in the city of Chicago. He gave me my taste in music. Temps, Four Tops, Smokey Robinson, Motown sound, Funkadelics, all that. He gave me my taste in music. Also, he gave me give him credit. He really instilled that in me. Cool movies, blaxploitation films, Last Dragon, stuff like that. He instilled that into me. So he gave where he could, but it's just that's what it is. Sometimes it maybe you'll never know what it truly is. That maybe might be that blocker or what it is, but he definitely gave and influenced me in certain ways as well.
That's good. It's good to know that, because we at the Father Forever, we feel that, especially young men, young boys, because men can teach boys how to become men.
Sure.
Mommy, the way they love us and nurture us and take care of us, which we definitely need. But I say this all the time, that a father cannot teach a little girl how to be a woman.
Sure.
And like mommy cannot teach a boy how to become a man.
Right. Yeah.
So at some point in your life, your parents separated or divorced or something.
Sure. Yeah. And I it's interesting when we talk about moms. So I think about my mom and stuff. My mom's a hustler. That's what I think of my mom. I remember we grew up on a nicer side in Phoenix, Peoria area. Then, as you mentioned, my parents separated. We moved to the kind of the Glendale area, for those who know, who are from the Phoenix area, the townies, as it would be called, the townhouses on 43rd and Maryland. And I guess I don't want to make it sound like it was the worst of times, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't. There was times where we probably did eat hot dogs 3-4 nights in a row. We probably did have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches 3-4 nights in a row. It's those type of touching those scenarios, and I just always remember my mother's work ethic. And summer school, she's an educator. Summer school, just thinking about her work ethic. But yeah, my parents did split up. Once again, like I mentioned earlier, that type of stuff, you never truly know what's going on, so it's hard to really speculate. But yeah, there was a point in time, probably I would say from around 10 to 14 years of age, where my father was not around. He went back to Chicago, where my family's from originally, and he was with his sister. But yeah, there was definitely a significant period there.
So how do you think that impacted your sisters?
Well, my youngest sister wasn't born at the time. My youngest sister was born in 2005, so when my parents kind of rekindled and broke, on again, off again type of thing. But my younger sister, who's 6 years younger than me, I think she probably didn't have much memory of it. It's kind of hard to maybe contextualize that, because you're so young. I myself, I'm 10, so she's 4 or 5 years of age. But it definitely makes an impact. We loved our dad. We had he's very involved in ministry, so we had like a routine where he would go minister at an elderly, what is this correct term, elderly home. He would minister to the elders, and we would always do that on Sunday afternoons, first Sundays. We were, like tight knit Christian family, and then that just kind of stops. We still going to church, but it's like now all of a sudden Dad's not there. So I can certainly imagine. I'm sure she could elaborate on it more, but like it certainly had an effect on her.
So there's a void there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely a void. It's and like the area that we moved to, and like it's really hard. We were talking about this kind of general area, like the West Phoenix, Glendale area. It's it was such an interesting time, like in the early 2000s. Like there was a large Bosnian population from like the wars over there that happened. There was a large Hispanic population, couple black folks, couple kind of, I don't want to say white trash, but kind of lower income white families as well. So it was like an interesting melting pot. It was always a fight. It was always a ball game. Always we go into the swimming pool. It was always stuff going on. So it's funny how like when you're, I don't want to say you don't notice your dad being around, but it's like life goes on, and it's like you supplement it with other things, and sure, it's certainly a noticeable. Like I think about like the interactions that me and my father have had, and even when he came back, just there's like a level of just like awkwardness. I would maybe describe it as like once the leave and come back occurs, right? Because it's not. I don't want to say a loss of respect, but it's just like I'm a person, like I have eyes and ears and a perception. Like I know you haven't been here for a while. I know we've still kind of maintained and we've still had to go on without you for some time. So it's like, I would say an adjustment period. Like, and he comes back, then my youngest sister was born in 2005. I'm about to be a freshman in high school at this point. So we really bumped heads a lot throughout my high school years when he was back, just because it's just kind of like I was mentioning, it's just like, maybe it is a lack of respect, and that's what it is, because it's just, like, you don't know why people leave and why people fall out, but it's just kind of, it's tough. Cause
and then as a freshman in college, you have a mindset of a freshman in college. I mean, in high school, yeah. So, and 10 years later, you would have a whole different perspective of that.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's go to your situation. Now, you have a son and a daughter.
Yeah.
4 and 10, I believe you said.
Yeah, 4 and he's going to be 10 in July.
He'll be 10 in July. Okay, now, where is he located?
He's in Phoenix as well. So it's, I'm not going to say parallels, because I think the lessons that I learned from my situation as being the son, I've definitely internalized, and I would never want my son to feel kind of that void and those things that I necessarily kind of felt at certain moments. So it wasn't the easiest situation. He was born in 2016. I was 25 years old, trying to figure out what's going on professionally, trying to figure out how to progress in my career, because you can love your kids as much as you want. If you're not able to provide at a certain level, it's really hard to, especially if the situation with the mother isn't ideal. Like, you need, and that's another thing. I mean, if we're talking about messages to the youth, like just really finding something that you're like passionate about in a professional sense, and even if it's not the love of your life in terms of a job, if it's something you feel like you could show up as the best version of yourself in the workforce, find that. And continue to go down that path and continue to see what doors that opens. Because that's really what I did in terms of moving back to Chicago. And yeah, maintain my situation with him the best I could without the court. I got to a point where I felt like that was unsatisfactory. There were canceled trips. I would go to Phoenix with the understanding that I'm going to be able to have him for a period of time. All of a sudden his mom disappears, not answering phone calls, things like that. And once again, this isn't to throw anybody under the bus. I have the utmost respect for his mother, and I think that's the place you have to get to. And I would tell any young father, that's really the best place that you could get to, even if you're not in the best of terms with the child's mother, is just a level of respect and understanding. If the mother's the primary parent, which my son's mother is, respect that. He's with her the majority of the time. We have an arrangement, what the law saw best fit. They say he should be with his mother. I have him on the periods that I have him, and that's really what you can do. You can do what you can, and you can't really, I don't want to say, like, what's the right word I'm looking for? You can't beat yourself up too much about it when you show up and you do the best you can if you have to go the route of going through the court.
About 20 years ago, I interviewed a dear friend of mine. He was 88, 89 years old. His name was Mose Ensley Sr. And we talked for like 2 hours. Got on film for 2 hours, right? And he ended up, he said, well, I want to share this with you. He said, be the best you that you can be, because nobody can best you at being you.
Right.
You know, and that stuck with me, man. It's going to stick with me as well. So, and that's what you're saying as well. You know, you're being in a situation is really not a very comfortable or the situation that you want it to be, but you got to make that lemon that was given to you, you got to make lemonade out of it.
Right. Because when you have a kid, right, that's like every emotion in the world, in terms of excitement, concern, I would say almost even fear, just hoping that the baby is born on 10 fingers, 10 toes, healthy. You go through every gauntlet and every emotion that one could potentially go through, and then the baby's here, and it's like, now there's a new human here. It was 2 of us, it's 3 of us now. How do we figure this out? And yeah, I mean, not blaming her, not blaming myself. There was just definitely maybe some maturity that both of us could have moved forward with in that period of time. But yeah, I mean, you go through the court if you have to. I mean, we're talking about messages for the youth, messages for young men. If you don't have to go through the court, if you don't have to pay an attorney, don't pay an attorney. Like, if you can work it out, if there's a possibility of working it out with the child's mother, work it out. But if you got to do, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, age comes. Excuse me, age comes into play. You know, I tell this young man, hey man, be careful out there. Have your children to your wife if possible.
Right.
You know, and if that doesn't happen, then you gotta make the best of it, and you'll be challenged time and time again as the plethora of reasons why.
I don't know how deep we're getting here at Father Forever, but I'm gonna get a little deep for a second. I think you know, when we're young men, a lot of that validation, and like I was speaking to self-esteem and things that I'm working on now, we find that in women. You know, I'm not going to get too explicit, but you know what I'm saying. We find that validation that as a man that you look for, you try to find it in a woman for whatever reason. And that, the older I get, I realize like that's not necessarily the order of operations, right? You validate yourself, and that's going to ultimately attract what you're hoping to put out.
Well said.
But you know, in my youthful exuberance, I guess I maybe went about it the wrong way. So, and not the wrong way, but I went about it the way that I went about it. So, yeah.
And now, so you and your son's mother, you guys have an understanding to where.
As good as, I mean, that's what the court's for, right? That's why, I mean, if two parents can't come to an understanding, the law hammers it out very, very clear as they can. And, yeah, they hammer it out. So it's like, you know, he's with me as much as he can be with me with respect to his education schedule, which obviously you prioritize. But if he's not in school, he's pretty much with me. So
what would you say to the young fathers that maybe have had a situation like you did, or going through it right now?
Right.
And they say, hey, man, I ain't paying his court costs. You know,
wow.
I'm walking away, man. I'm done. What would you say to them?
It's tough because, and you know, on one side of things, like I said, I don't blame you. If the resources aren't there, if you genuinely, because the amount of paperwork they're going to make you go through, you could sign yourself up for a bad deal. And at a certain point, that's why people hire legal representation, to represent your best interest. Even though they may not do the best job at that, you want someone who understands the field to represent your best interest. But show up. And I think that's what, because when you do, if it ends up in a case, if it ends up you going in front of a judge, they're going to ask you, how did you show up? Provide evidence of you showing up. What is this? And even though you're not going to get credit for it, because that's one thing I will say that I don't understand how that particular piece of the law works, how you can clearly demonstrate in a court of law that someone was withholding your child from you, and it's still, they don't look at it in terms of any monetary amount, it's just time and dollars. So I you know, if there ever is a place where I can advocate, and I think Father Forever is doing a wonderful job at that, just continuing to advocate for the fathers who are showing up, I would love to have conversations with lawmakers. It's just, there are some antiquated, I think, concepts as it relates to determining those parameters of like child support. But show up. That's really my message. Like, show up in what way you can. And if that doesn't mean you can hire an attorney, then you continue trying to put that effort out there. How's my child doing? Can I FaceTime my child? Can I see my child? And if there's no response, document that. Keep documenting it and show up with that. When you can show up to the court, when you are confident, when you do have the correct resources, show up with that documentation that you did all you can to maintain your relationship with your child.
I talked to a young man a few years ago because relationship with the baby's mother was not good, and so, but he had a good relationship with the mother's mother.
Okay.
The son's grandmother. Because she saw what kind of guy he was. So she set it up to where, the boy would come to her, and he would do whatever. They set a plan up to where he could pick her up from the grandmother's house.
And that's a blessing.
And,
like, hey,
truly
that's a blessing.
is.
Like, if you can work something out, that's similar to when I did live in Phoenix. Like that, I was working with her father to pick him up. I would pick him up at the car dealership that he worked at. So it's like, when you talk about traditional situations and I speak to my upbringing, which was maybe lean more towards the traditional side for the majority of time. It's, in 2026, it's like traditional is kind of what you make it, in my opinion. It's like we understand what a nuclear family looks like and what nuclear structures look like, but it's just not modern times for better or for worse. And it's just where we're at. And I think I would reiterate the message I said, show up for your child, show up the best that you can for your child.
Because they need to know who daddy is.
No, 100%.
They need to know that daddy loves them, that daddy cares for them, that daddy will do for them. They need to see that.
And it might be hard. That's one thing that my mom encourages me when we have conversations. It's like, you're not going to be able to control how your kid reacts to you, or you could be pouring your all into your child, and they're being a kid. It may not resonate with them. They may not be able to have the perception. They may be influenced by that other side to where the other side may be saying, hey, they're doing this to get you to think a certain way. So always be present of mind that they're just trying to get you to think a certain way. They don't necessarily really feel this way about you. So it's really, I would say, in my situation, an uphill battle. And it's something that I struggle with just because like we were talking about, I can't say that I did many activities with my dad. I did some activities, a couple that come to mind, but it's with my son, we do it up. We're all over the place. He wants to see Steph Curry, we're seeing Steph Curry. We're going to Wisconsin Dells during the summer. And it's not about materialistic things. And I don't mean to say it like it's about materialistic things, but it's just, it is a certain amount of time spent making memories, and things like that aid in making memories.
We at Father Forever, we tell fathers, the best gift that you can give your child, no other gift comes close, is your time.
No, 100%. 100%.
Because they're saying that the kids may not remember if someone gave them something, but what they will remember, the time that you spent with them.
As a father yourself, do you feel like when your kids were younger that there were times where maybe you felt like you were trying to pour into them and they didn't necessarily appreciate it or understand where you were coming from?
Well, I got news for you. Your boy will be 10 in July, right?
Yeah.
Wait till 12 and 13 comes along.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
But hey, man, you still on the battlefield, man.
Right.
Because especially being a black boy in America, he needs to understand certain things. The discipline, the hard work, the work ethic, the respect, for his mother and for women as a whole. And hey, just work on being the best you. And like you said earlier, it takes that village.
Right. And that's tough because it's just not the same. And maybe maybe I don't, I was raised in church, so I don't actively go to church now, but I don't know where you go to find that village anymore. Where to find, I was so fortunate to have an Aunt Janet or a Tommy Reynolds, like I mentioned, just these people who weren't direct family members, but were in in my vicinity, and I was able to get some game from, or just get some. I remember Aunt Janet, she would always at least once a year, she would have all of the boys over for just a night to just hang out. And it's just man, that stuff, it really sticks with you.
Again, you just reiterated what I just said a few moments ago. You may not remember something that someone gave you, but you will remember the time that they gave you. And Janet gave you guys time that once or twice a year, hanging out the house or sleeping.
No, yeah, for sure.
And it's very meaningful.
Right.
Because you talk about it like it happened yesterday. The way you're speaking about it, it's very meaningful, and it helps you understand more about life as you get older. Because then when you have a son and now you're a girl dad, you will see things will, like my dad said, life will reveal itself.
Reveal itself for sure. And I just I hope opportunities present themselves for that village, because that's what, like, people around would always let me know, like, how much my mother loves me. And it's like sometimes it's like you feel it and your mom loves you, but it's just like people like reassuring you and people like telling you like, hey man, like you got a great mom, or your mom works hard. Like, and it's just, I would like maybe people to do that for me. I guess selfishly, like I would like people to like, hey, your dad loves you, man. And it's just like, I don't know. It's because it goes to that perception thing, right? It's like how is your kid being influenced? They can hear your voice only so much, right? But it's like there's other factors.
Here's what we've learned over the years, that we do not live in a father-friendly society. We do not live in a father-friendly society. If you're doing something that's great, well, you're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be doing. So you ain't doing nothing special, But like I was saying to you earlier, like we are human too. Sometimes a pat on the back ain't gonna hurt us, or a kind word won't hurt us.
Right.
As long as we're doing the best that we can do. And sometimes it seems like the best ain't good enough, but it is.
And that's why I gotta shout you out, man. Like and Father Forever, like I just appreciate just the open line that always remains, and just being able to, in those low moments, know that there's someone that I can speak to and get that understanding, and just hear that exact message. Like hear that, hey.
Yeah, and I have a 74-year perspective on this thing called life, so not to have all the right answers, but I can give you a different perspective to where you say, didn't think about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now let's go to this little cutie pie that's 4 years old now.
Right, yeah. Noah, yeah, that's my daughter, she's 4 years old. Interesting. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier about just like, I guess trying to find validation in women, like, and I don't, just, I guess reflecting on it, I want to make sure I say this the right way, like, sometimes the biggest blessings are the things that we aren't expecting, right? And like maybe that weren't planned and didn't happen the way that you wanted it to exactly happen. So but being a girl dad is just such a you see things from a perspective that you never have seen things from, and you learn to interact in a way that may not come natural to you, and in a way where you're so acknowledged and you're so understanding of the emotional side of things. Like my son, I feel like we can have conversations, and that's not to say that boys have emotions just as much as girls have emotions, but there's just a certain level of it's just different, and it really is like I try to learn every day, and I'm trying to navigate that field every day in terms of how I speak with her. Like my girlfriend, she was out here this entire week. I was with Noah in Chicago. I gotta wake up in the morning. She don't want to wake up at 7:30 to go to school. You don't want to yell too much. You don't want to be too aggressive with waking her up. But it's just like, understanding the ebbs and flows of parenting a sweet little girl. Yes.
Well, not only are you learning, she's learning as well.
Right, and that's. I appreciate you saying that, because that's one thing we are working on. It is that age where they're going from a toddler to a child. You have to like kind of set expectations, because things can get out of control real quick. Like the clinginess, and it's of course kids want to be around their mom all the time, but it's just like that's what I said. That would say that we're really working on right now is just understanding like, hey, you're getting older now. You can sleep in your room. You can stay in your room the entire night. Mommy and daddy may be doing things throughout the evening. We're not going to be glued to your hip. We will play dollhouse. We can play a little bit, but I'm in school. Her mom has work stuff going on. Her mom is an entrepreneur as well. She has things going on. And it's like, it's tough with these tablets, man, because it's such a it's a gift and a curse, because like you don't want to sit your kid in front of a tablet and say entertain yourself, but it's just like, you want your child to be able to kind of learn to be in a place of being able to kind of entertain themselves, for lack of a better way of saying it. And it's just like kind of finding that balance between technology and you having that actual interaction.
It can be a double-edged sword, sure. And it definitely it's a balance, man. And sometimes we're unbalanced, because of work commitments or whatever other commitments is coming into play. You may not have the time that you should be giving her. And then hey man, I tell people all the time, the most difficult job in the world is not a brain surgeon, not an astronaut, not a physicist. The most difficult job in the world is being a parent.
Oh, sure. It's and the different, like I said, with it's neither one of my situations, and I struggle with the word traditional, because like, what is traditional? Like, what does that even mean in this context? But like, I mean, definitely with my daughter wasn't a traditional situation with her. Her mom and I had probably known each other for 6 months when she was conceived. So it's just happened quickly. I love her mother dearly. It's like, and we are we're working on things with ourselves, and I think it's tough, because it's like I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, I by no shape or form would say that I'm in that relationship because my daughter, but I feel like I have an extra obligation to her mother because we do share a child. And you want to make sure, of course, the relationship is good, but it's like when you have a kid, the kid influences the relationship. Like, what do you think about just like it's in terms of like that balance between the relationship?
Well, no, absolutely. Because and it's what I tell these young guys. I told my son and my grandsons and another young man, if at all possible, have all your children to your wife.
Sure.
Because see, what happens then, mommy gets involved with another guy.
Right.
You don't know how this guy's going to treat your son or daughter. And that's just a fact.
Yeah.
And you come in there, and then some guys are just knuckleheads. And you come in there trying to establish a relationship. I'm a father. You probably would be the stepfather in that situation.
Right.
And everybody can't handle that. See.
Yeah.
And it creates friction. It creates anger. It creates a whole lot of stuff to work. Like I said before, some guys, hey, they're gonna do the moonwalk. Hey, I ain't dealing with all this. I just send them the money, and that's it. Or I want to do anything. But it's challenging. It's difficult. That's why you want to sit down and talk those things out. Now, are you married to your daughter's mother?
No, we're not married. We're together. We're working on just life and like what that looks like in the context of. I mean, I know this is a podcast about fatherhood, but I think I guess all this kind of ties in. It's like I personally have never really had like a super long-term relationship. I had a bunch of girlfriends, and 2 kids with 2 different women. But it's like relationships are difficult things, and I think how we see relationships in our youth, like kind of circling back to how we began the conversation with some of the things that I saw with my mother and father, it really informs how we interact in romantic relationships. And I just think it's about learning the things that you may have not learned if you weren't given that base. Because, I mean, I'm thinking about how many friends of mine, like, where both of their parents were together. It's not very many. Like, I definitely have friends where their parents were together and are still together, but it's just like, I mean, it's a handful of them. So it's like when we venture into these relationships ourselves, it's like we're really venturing into territory that we didn't see modeled or we didn't see replicated by our mother and father. So just really navigating that and understanding like everything that goes along with being in a committed long-term relationship, hopefully heading towards a marriage.
That's a great point, because I'm a firm believer in that people do what they know.
Right. It's consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah.
It's like you don't. I don't think I don't intentionally try to model things that I saw my father do, but I think you have traits, right? You have things that you do, once again, subconsciously that may lend themselves to, maybe it's like a withdrawal thing. Maybe like when times get hard, like you withdraw into yourself or you retreat, just knowing that you have your back, and it's like we may become more isolated in those moments where we should probably lean in, or maybe it's unfortunately a tendency to speak harshly, not get into the area of verbal abuse or anything, but just speak harsher than you may need to in situations, and just be more matter of fact and blunt than you need to, where you could be more understanding and more speaking from a perspective of partnership as opposed to like giving out orders or like saying it is what it is.
Because you're still dealing with life.
Right.
Just because this situation may not be going well, life is still going on.
Right.
And you may respond and like I said, a harsh manner or a manner in which you really don't mean to, to project, but you do anyway. And then what that does, a cause and effect. Then she may come, to push on your buttons and hey man.
Yeah.
That's just
man, tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's tough because I don't know if compartmentalizing things is the right way that you're supposed to handle it, but you're really asked to deal in so many different avenues at one point in time, whether it be the relationship and then snap into work mode and then snap into daddy mode and then snap into your creative space or your entrepreneurial space mode. And you have to, hopefully you can find, and that's kind of like, once again, circling back to what we were talking about earlier, is just finding who you truly are so you're able to operate as much as you can as your true authentic self in each one of those scenarios. But I mean, as a brother, like especially in that professional sense, like we got to show up as who they expect us to show up as. You can't show up to the 9 to 5 as your true authentic self. It's just the matter of fact what it is kind of thing.
Yeah, because being a father is not the same as punching a clock. It's not the same. And I've learned over my number of decades being around is that the key that every man should attempt to deal with or to grasp to embrace is understanding. To understand, okay, the mother of my child, what was her relationship with her father?
Right, man, that's so deep. That's
with her grandfather.
And that's a whole. She could better speak to that than I could, but that's something I consider. But it's tough, and not to get too deep into her personal, but. Yeah, I understand how that influences how she frames relationships and how
Absolutely.
she frames her interactions with men and has.
And then what was her relationship with her mother and her grandmother? You have all these dynamics coming into place.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying about understanding. That's why communication is a key and understanding. I don't understand it, but I understand what you're saying because I haven't experienced what you experienced, but
that's so interesting that you say that, because it's like, how do you? Because you could talk to somebody, they could tell you every story, they could tell you every interaction, but it's like you don't understand how you can have all the information, but you still may not know how that shapes their decisions and how that shapes how they interact with you and how they interact with their child. So that's certainly something I'm gonna think about and continue to try to get better at. Another piece of advice, and I don't know if you encourage this at Father Forever. Therapy, talking. There's nothing wrong. I think there's a stigma on talking and looking for that. I guess what people would call professional help. But talking to your family is great. Talking to a trusted elder is great. But there's something about just being able to kind of speak with an unbiased third party about your issues and really just using that forum for what it is.
We meaning Father Forever, we have what we call the diamond culture. 4 parts in this specific order: the spiritual wellness, the mental wellness, the physical wellness, and the financial wellness. Now those two, the spiritual, because we don't, as long as you believe in your supreme being, whether you call he, it, she, whatever you want to, I don't care. As long as you have the guidelines of a spiritual well-being, that's going to help you deal with this thing called life. And then with mental well-being, hey man, these people go to school for a reason,
Right.
and we can't figure everything out. And like I said earlier, that's why, as far as someone, we want someone that's unbiased.
Sure.
And those are the main two. But then the other two, just important, the physical wellness. Hey, when you have children, you better be out there to play with your children.
Right.
You can't be sitting home saying I'm tired, all this stuff. And then the financial wellness, which is difficult now with the stage, time in life that we're living in, trying to gather finances, this kind of stuff.
Right.
But back to your point on the mental wellness, we're big on mental wellness because it's critical. We have every month. We started February this year. It's the second Saturday of each month. It's called the Man Cave. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on for 1 hour. And we have brothers. We just like we're talking about different things that everyone's going through and what happens. Like the last one that we had, this brother was going through something, and someone else chimed in, shared his opinion, his perspective. He said, "Wow, I never looked at it that way." And thanks for sharing it with me. Now I got a different perspective to look at it. I'm a firm believer. In the Bible it says, "Iron sharpens iron." Man, we don't talk enough, guys. We don't talk enough. That's why
it's hard. It's hard. Like this, having a conversation like this. I mean, I'm fortunate that, like I said, trusted elder that I'm able to. It's such a blessing, like to be able to fly across the country and just have somebody that you could talk to and you could sit here and even just. I know this is a podcast, but this is like even in itself helpful for me just to even just have this conversation. And I know everybody may not be blessed with that from just a life standpoint, but you hear Mr. William Denson here saying like there is resources in terms of a Father Forever, maybe another local chapter wherever you're at, something similar. There are people, there is community that you can lean into to discuss these things to get that different perspective.
And to push a step forward, that you need to push this information on someone that, because they're going, if they haven't already, they're going to come at you, man. Hey, let me run something by you. I got a quick. Tell me what you think about this, man. So you will you have some of this wisdom and knowledge. Say, well, the way I look at this, my take at this is
sure.
A, B, C, and D. Because we gotta have one. Women will talk all day long to one another. They will cry. They will snot. They will do all that stuff. But they get out of the system. But see, men, we internalize it, which leads to early death, to
wow.
early physical challenges.
How do you? I mean, that's interesting that you say it. Like, how do you? Because I mean, like, I'm assuming you're talking about like stress and just the kind of what comes along with being stressed out. How do you deal with stress? Like, I know I run, but it's like I really do find myself like just after just a long day, just like stressed out sometimes. Just like needing to take that deep breath and like just not even able to really relax. Just kind of being in that fight or flight mode.
Well, you have to find, I call it your defensive mechanism.
Okay.
You gotta have that. Now throughout the day, I'm always talking to God. Okay, and I talk to him like I'm talking to you now. Not being disrespectful to him or anything, but say, man, look here, man, I'm struggling with this. I need help in A, B, C, and D. Then the other thing, the free moments that you have, whether it's driving or I think it's great that you run because the endorphins, all that kind of stuff is being released and all that stuff. You have to take care of you first before you take care of anybody else. And when people are dependent upon you, when they value you, when they love you, like, hey man, it's like a boxing match.
Okay.
The end of the round, right? You come sit on the stool. Hey man, you got 30 seconds to sit there and get yourself together, man.
We right back out there.
And then we right back out there, man.
Man, that's a great analogy. Yeah, that's really
But you have to want to go back out there. You have to accept the fact, like, no, hey, I can do this.
But I like that boxing analogy. But I think, using it, you also understand, and I think maybe what I need to get better at is like, not every round's going to be your best round.
Not only that, you can't win every round. All you gotta do is win the majority of the rounds to get a decision as a win. Matter of fact, when you get to the end of the boxing match, you know, if everyone's still standing and if they're smiling going on, if there's hugs, there's kisses, there's apologies, you won the battle that day. Remember, it's a boxing ring every day.
That's good to hear from you. I mean, at least like, because I feel like some people tell us that we have to be perfect all the time. So
No.
it's like just to hear that, like just to hear that you don't have to just be.
I tell
like, you're not gonna win every round. That's such an important message that like people.
I tell
need to,
children who have problems with their fathers, who have a disdain for their fathers. I say, man, there's no such thing as a perfect father. There's no such thing as a perfect mother, grandmother, grandfather. There's no perfect thing. There's no such thing as a perfect son or a perfect daughter.
Right.
We all struggle in this thing, just trying to be the best that we can be. Because as long as you give something your best, you can't get more than that. And I think understanding is such a key word to have part of your empire.
That's what I'm gonna take from this. I mean, I'm gonna take a lot from this, obviously, but I think that's like really that's maybe an area I could grow and work at. Is just you're not gonna win every round. That's like so important. That's so important to just because I'm gonna switch sports here, but there's like a football analogy that I remember like when I played football, like my coach would say is like, you don't let a bad play turn into a bad series. You don't let a bad series turn into a bad quarter turn into a bad half turn into a bad game. It turns into a bad season. And I think like taking that to the boxing analogy is like, yes, you lost a round. Yes, you weren't the best version of yourself this round, but you take that 30 seconds and you show up again, and you keep showing up, and that's really where I'm at.
And there's gonna be some days where you're gonna lose the match. There's some days you're gonna lose a football game, but that's okay.